Like Senator Collins, I'm troubled by the proposed elimination of the Job Corps. She said very passionately, and I support her 120%. As I discussed with you over the phone, we have a Job Corps Center in Exeter, Rhode Island, and it's not only critical to these young men and women to develop their talents and be productive members of our society, but also it's a key aspect of our submarine production with their relationships to electric boat at Quonset Point, Rhode Island. If we don't have these trained and skilled workers, we will fall behind further and further in terms of submarine production, which will be detrimental is an understatement to our national security. And again, I think it's something that we have to seriously reconsider, this reduction. What I've heard already is that you've ceased background checks on new students, so they cannot enroll new students going forward at this point.
Yeah, there is a pause.
So that pause is really preventing young people from qualifying to go and start the next year of school. And
yeah, as we continue to review, there is a pause because, again, the transparency report, what we're seeing in costs, no final decision has been made, and that's why I'm so committed to working with each and every one of you and understanding that. And I know through our conversation on the phone, Senator, in your respective state, how important this was for you. And I think we talked a little bit about the numbers. You have the one Job Corps Center, Exeter, that you mentioned, that's specific and intentional in working with the companies. And while there's a difference in certain Job Corps centers, I know that the cost per enrollee there is $65,000 and cost per graduate is about $191,000. What we also know, as I mentioned, kind of as a whole, the overall graduation rate is about 38%. And so, again, most of the Job Corps graduates, if they come out, are making just under $17,000 a year. So my goal is to not forget this population and work with you all on how we transition to a pre-apprenticeship. And the President's executive order on 1 million apprentices throughout the country is going to be a directive to me and the Department of Labor to make sure that we are addressing that across the board.
well, let's go to that transparency report you refer to consistently. All these numbers are based upon data from really the heart of the COVID epidemic, in which, because of COVID, 34% enrollment was at 34%. Today, enrollment is at 75%. And if you ran those numbers today, the course per student would go down dramatically. So your argument that this is just a waste and too expensive is a direct result, a calculated result of picking the most favorable point you could to reinforce an argument I would suspect the administration had before you even got there, which is let's get rid of this program and find some numbers to justify it.
That's not a true statement. That's not a true statement.
What year is it? Are these numbers coming from?
Well, they are pre-COVID, but the same amount of dollars were spent despite how many enrollees were there. So it's more than just the one-legged part of the stool of the cost. The transparency report also let us understand that there are other flaws in the program. And through that transparency report, we saw that there are many of these students who are in harm's way, whether through rape, murder, incident reports that have come out. So I have to look at the whole picture, but I can tell you this. I want to care about the apprenticeship side of this. So it's not a forgotten on this population. I will work with you specifically in your state to address those students.
Let's look at the transparency report another way. It appears to count students, for example, going to military service or further education as having zero earnings. As a result, you can make the argument that after all this money is spent, these young people don't get jobs worthwhile, et cetera. This is a calculated, not transparent, but deceptive report, in my view. So I would hope you would recognize that and review it. The other aspect I think we have to stare straight is this block grant approach to training. I've been serving here for a while. The block grant is a deliberate approach that's been taken by many administrations to gradually end programs. Because all you do is the next year if inflation is 3%, the block grant goes up 1%. And after about 5 or so years, states begin to say, we're not getting in enough money to do this, why should we put our money in? Further complicating the block grant approach is that if you look at the totality of the Trump budget, the question in states, your state, West Virginia, how are we going to make up the cuts to Medicaid that will basically undermine our entire healthcare system? How are we going to make up the cuts to elementary and secondary education? For example, in my state of Rhode Island, $34 million from Medicaid goes into taking care of young students there. Does the state just say, well, we can't afford that anymore, et cetera? So what you're going to see in reality is that this block grant will rapidly deteriorate to nothing. And two, states will not have the ability, yet partnership, because given the choice of saving a healthcare system or saving a school system, I would suspect they would choose that over some of this training. So again, this approach seems to me to be entirely unsubstantiated by real analysis and something that's going to cause more problems. And it's not going to deliver training to young people. So, and, you know, the other thing is, clever remarks are the downfall of people. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator.